Hey y'all, I want to welcome y'all to this channel. It's a Chicago Vibe podcast. We'll be dropping this Saturday with your girl, Lady T. Marie and Mr. Success. You don't want to miss it. What up, y'all? It's your girl, Lady T. Marie, and
DJ Mr. Success.
And today we have a special guest by the name of Kyrie. Stay tuned. Many people struggle with grief, and it can weigh you down. But God wants you to be free. There is a time, a season, and a purpose for everything under the sun. This commercial was sponsored by It's a Chicago Vibe with Lady T. Marie and Mr. Success.
All right. All right, welcome back to the show, you guys. And we're here today with our special guest. Oh, and by the way, we're going to be talking about grief and how to deal with it and a lot more other things. Like we say, our show is about just real life issues. But I would like to introduce to our show today a young lady, up-and-coming star, Kyrie, content creator. She have a wonderful podcast. And man, I'm going to let her tell it.
Right now, I am blogging. As of right now, I was doing a podcast called Crazy K Podcast. Now, Crazy K Podcast is a podcast where I talk about mental health. The name Crazy K, I came up with it because I grew up in the system, DCFS system, and from my family and like foster homes that I've been in, the foster kids, a lot of people around that didn't really dig into who I am. They called me crazy because I had moments where I would just like get mad. I would be overstimulated. So they used to call me crazy a lot. So that's where I came up with the name Crazy K. It's crazy with a K, not a C.
Okay.
On there, I basically just give motivational speeches, not only for myself, but for anybody that needs it. I can't remember off the top of my head a few of I got a podcast called Connect to You, where basically I talk about connecting to your inner self instead of connecting with people around, because a lot of people, they want to connect to people around them instead of connecting with self first. Yeah. And that's one of the first steps you do in order to heal. You connect with your inner self to, find the root of your problems. Because I used to be one of those people that pointed fingers at everybody else. In reality, when you come across a problem, you are a part of that problem because you allow those people to make you react, when you are the one that control how you react to situations. And it took me a long time to realize that. In actual, I don't go on my podcast letting people know like, oh yeah, I'm fully healed and all the other stuff, because I still have problems with letting people get a reaction out of me. I'm still working on that. So I let people know like, I'm with you. I 100% understand you. So that was one of the podcasts that I talk about. I had to take a step back from podcasting because there's a lot of things that I still have to deal with personally, but I started blogging. My blog is called Melanin Noir. It's on WordPress, www.melaninnoir.wordpress.com. Okay. And on there, I tell stories. And majority of my stories are just like stories that I came up with or stories that come to me. And most of the stories that come to me have everything to do with lessons in life. Like there was a story that I had just wrote last night. I wish I could share my screen. I should have pulled it up before I started this, but I wasn't thinking about that. But it was a story that I shared last night. And this came to me while I was meditating. One of the words that came to me were pray for your enemies, because they're not enemies. They are people who need love and guidance just like you. And when it kept repeating in my head, so I'm like, let me go on my blog and just write something. And as I was writing, everything just started flowing right along with it. So I just kind of figured out that I was one of those people that needed to put my voice into writing or video. Like I like to talk a lot. and I like to give advice a lot, but some people, they don't listen. So I choose to do mines in a way, yeah, they'll come to me for advice, but they never take heed to it. Or if I tell them something and they be like, oh, you think you know everything? No, I'm just giving you what, what was called for me to give you, the message that was called for me to give you. So instead of me just taking in everybody else's energy and draining myself, I just took it, put it in a blog or put it in my podcast. So that's what I'm doing right now. I have an internship with digital media. It's called Kingdom Branding. They work on flyers, web development, and things like that. That's kind of moving kind of slow because they are busy a lot. So just weighing out my options right now, working and just hoping for a blessing. Anybody to watch my podcast, listen to my podcast, read my blogs. Hopefully one day I can become a book writer or somebody that creates movies, because a lot of my blogs, they are like scenes from movies that I want to create, like writings from movies that I want to create. So it's a lot of stuff that I want to do, but I have to get myself together personally before I just branch myself out there, because I don't want to take in a lot of things and then end up ruining it from my own mental health. So I'm just taking things slowly and just doing what I can as of right now to just put myself out there.
And I just want to ask you, because a lot of them I've been following, like the very first one I heard that you did your podcast and stuff. Was it like life experience that inspired you to do that, or it just come to you and you just relate a message and stuff? What inspired you to do the type of writing you do? Because a lot of your writing is real deep for a young girl your age. You like 24, right? And you be writing really some thing. I be seeing a lot of it, real nice and heavy too.
I just want to point out Sammy was one of the ones that actually heard me do my very, very first podcast, because at first I just didn't know what I wanted to do when I came to this school. So when I got and I seen everybody else's project that they were working on, I'm like, okay, they got their niches. Where's mine? And I finally found mine. He was the first one to like hear my podcast and really understand where I was coming from. So I just wanted to point that out. But my podcast really stems from a lot of things that I've been through in life. I've been through a lot, and I'm still sort of kind of going through it, but I'm healing at the same time. And a lot of people, they don't understand what healing is. They think it's like forgive and forget and that's it. Like, no, it will be times where you are happy and you forgot about the pain that you have endured. But then there are times where you just lay down at night and you just start remembering, like flashes just come hitting you at night. And that's where a lot of my podcast came from. A lot of deep hurt. I write stories on my blog, and I sort of kind of realized that I write the same things over and over again, but in different ways.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm doing my healing within my bloggings, but I sort of realized that I write a lot of things the same, but in different ways for everybody to understand, because everybody don't have the same thinking.
Yeah.
And it's just my way of coping, my way of getting through a lot of things that I've been through. So if I'm writing the same thing over and over again, I know that it's a lesson that I still have to learn.
Okay. Can I ask you a question? When have you ever dealt with any form of grief in your life?
Yes.
Okay. Would you mind explaining to the people what type of grief and how have you overcame that grief?
My family hasn't really experienced a lot of deaths. The very first death that we had in our family was my great grandfather, and I was very, very young, but I still remember his funeral. And it was like when I was a kid, I had like this deep understanding of things. It was like I was really, really smart. And I still get images of him laying in his casket, or us being at the burial and throwing flowers into his casket, but I never had like that close bond with him to like feel some kind of way, like cry about it, but I remember it vividly.
Mm-hmm.
And his funeral doesn't really affect me. My granddaddy's funeral, it affected me at his son, my granddaddy. His funeral affected me in that moment, but it doesn't like affect me now. But the worst death that affected me was my god sister, because I was actually really, really close to her. Like I wasn't really as close to my family as I was to her.
Yeah.
When she passed away, I was in school, I was in high school, and I was in class. And my mom called me while I was in class. She FaceTimed me and she was like, oh, she was like, Ashley died. And I'm like, Ashley who? She was like, Ashley. I was like, Ashley Weaver? She was like, yeah. And I hung up the phone to her and I just started like crying. And how I dealt with that, I was in foster care, and my foster mom and my siblings, because I was in the foster home with my siblings. It took us a while before we ended up together, but I was in foster home with my little sister and my little brother, and they did not make it easy for me.
Wow.
Got sent home from school. My mentor at my school, she drove me home because I just couldn't stay in school because I just constantly kept crying. So she drove me home and she went to go talk to the foster mom, and the foster mom was just like acting as if like she don't care about how I feel.
Mm-hmm.
It took so much of a toll on me that I just started like smoking marijuana uncontrollably, not eating any food. I lost a lot of weight, like a lot of weight. They used to think that I was doing other drugs other than weed. That's how much weight
Yeah.
I lost. And I don't cry as much now, but I pray. And with my granddaddy, the way I coped with that was when I was younger, I looked at the sky. After his funeral, it was a long trip back. We lived in Rockford. The funeral was in Chicago. Around this time, I was in Rockford. And on the road, I just was looking up at the sky, and I just seen the biggest star that was shining bright in the sky. And I'm like, that's my granddaddy watching over me. So that's how I deal with grief.
Mm-hmm.
And I deal with death. I just say that anything around me, right? Something that connects to me, like if I constantly keep seeing red cardinals, because I do see them a lot, and those birds, they are like every once in a blue moon kind of birds. They don't just show up. So when I see red cardinals, I'm like, all right, that's one of my family members or my god sister that's sending me a message, letting me know that I'm okay and I'm on the right path of healing and stuff like that. So I just tell people to deal with it like that. Like it was one time I was in the Uber, and the Uber almost got into an accident, but I knew I was in the car and we almost got hit by a semi truck, but he stopped his brakes just in time. And I just knew that was my family members watching over me. And that was just God right there. Like there's been so many times where I could have been in accidents or I could have got snatched up. It's been so many times, but I walk around here with so much faith, and I feel like I'm just so protected that I don't worry when I go outside anymore. I don't worry about anybody doing anything to me. I just don't worry because I know that I'm protected and I know that my family is watching over me. So that's just how I deal with it.
I just want to say, about grief. Um, I could be here all day about grief because I done lost so many people, from my husband to my brother to uncles, cousins, my grandfather. Like I could write a book on just talking about, really losing people. But what really struck grief with me was when I think I was maybe 18, no, 17. And my fiance passed away. Well, he was murdered at the time in Chicago. And God, like a week before he passed, God allowed me, like I saw his death and I warned him. I had a dream of him literally in a casket. And God was telling me, tell him to get his life right. And to fast forward, the day before he passed, everything was just like in slow motion. I just felt real, very weird, and and God was just giving me that sign because he dealt with me in the prophetic, so I just didn't feel right. And so that next morning, I literally had a picture of him in my entertainment center. You know how back in the day we had the entertainment center with the glass door. And the picture, when I woke up, at the time I was going to Kennedy King College, and I was getting up ready for school, and the picture literally just fell. It was stuck in there. So I'm like, what's going on? And my daughter at the time, she was running around the house like, Ma, he chasing me, he chasing me. And I'm like, he chasing her? What is she like 2 years old? And so the phone rang and I got a call, and my stepdad was like, he did. I'm like, what? And it took me like 2 years to like snap back. Like it was to the point where I couldn't listen to no music. I was traumatized, because if you living with a person, you with a person every single day of your life and they just gone like that, it was hard. It took prayer. It took my mom, family to like really, I felt God like he was pulling on me because I kept having visions of like a cross, feeling the presence of God, and I'm like, God, what are you doing? Like, and then one day I just woke up and I just felt his God peace all over me. And God was like, you can make it. I allowed you to go through this trauma so that you can have a testimony to help somebody else. Because if you ain't been through it, how you gonna have an anointing to help somebody else? So about fast forwarding it to when my brother passed away, which he died in a car accident, it was like, okay, I've been through this. So it wasn't as bad because, you know, I've been through that already, and I knew how to handle it. And so it got to, like the next following year, my daughter's father was killed in Chicago. And I'm like, oh my God. So, but I was able to handle it more better because I had went through this traumatic, and I never wanted to go back to that place, to the place where I'm like, I'm mentally not here. I don't even want to be here, because you feel like if you with a person and you love that person, like I don't ever want to lose you, and then especially when you young. I was like 17, 18 years old. So I'm like, this is my life, this is my everything, but God took me through that. And even though it's been 20 years now, I'm 40, finna be 42 years old, you still have your moments, you know. Fast forwarding it to 3 years ago now, my husband passed away. And I went through that again, but because I went through the first traumatic situation, I know how to handle it now. I know how to not, stay there. And I'm gonna say this: how I kind of got over when my baby brother passed was he came to me in a dream, and I was really 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 hurt, and grieving really bad about my brother. And he came to me in a dream, and he was walking down this hallway, and he was like, you have to let me go. He said, if you don't let me go, you're gonna be where I'm at, because stress is gonna kill you. And I was still holding on to his leg, and in my spirit, I knew I had to let him go. I'm holding on to the memories. I'm holding on to, from what when we grew up as kids, I'm holding on to all the good things, but I gotta let him go. He told me, like, you're gonna be okay. But if you don't let me go, you're gonna be where I'm at. And that was the hardest thing for me to do. But he literally came to me in a dream, and I had to let him go. And I still have my mom is like, man, where I break down, like, man, I wish my brother was here. But God knows best. You know what I'm saying? I feel like before we leave here, and grief is not always about somebody leaving here. But in our community, mainly that's what grief normally is. Unless, somebody get hurt or they're grieving because someone is ill, But mainly when we deal with grief is mainly when somebody passed away, But in the Bible, it talks about there's a time and a season and a purpose for everything up under the sun. Time to be born, time to die, time to cry, you know what I mean? And so it's we all have a time, you know what I mean, to go through what we go through. It's just I feel like how we handle the situation, And the only way we can handle it is to allow God to strengthen us. Without his strength, we can't make it. Especially losing a loved one, I had to think like, man, my mom, that was her son. I know what it's like to lose a brother. I don't know what it's like to lose a child because my kid's here. So I don't even want to imagine. You know what I mean? So it's like people that deal with, the loss of a parent or someone that's really, really close to them, like a husband. That is really hard, And so if anybody that's out there listening to me, and you dealing with your mother, your father, the loss of whoever, that you was close to, the only way you'll never get over it. I will be sitting up in line saying, you're going to get over it. No, you're going to learn how to cope.
Yeah, you just got to find peace with that.
You got to learn, and the only peace you're going to get is in God. I'm here to tell you. You could try whoever you want to try. You could look for whatever drug to get you high is higher than the Sears Tower. But at the end of the day, you need God. And that's just really what it is. So, Sammy, I'm going to give it back to you.
Right. And yeah, it's just a lot of ways to deal with grief is. I just, like you say, prayer, give it to God and keep positivity going on. A lot of people tell us you're going to move on, you move on. No, it's no moving on because the pain of going through is going to always be there. It's just the way to deal with grief basically is, like you say, prayer, but we got to move forward with it. That's basically the key. And the key is prayer, positivity, and stuff like that. And the most common way of grief is losing a loved one or, the significant other, friend, or a child. But people grieve sometime over losing friendship, or just heartbreak. People grieve heartbreaks and stuff like that all the time, man.
Losing their career.
Careers and stuff like that. So it's many different ways, and people deal with it different ways. And I suggest any of our listeners out there that's going through grief and need a way to deal with it. A lot of people try to put their grief off on other people. That's not the case. You need to find somebody that can relate to what you're going through, because like Lady T just said earlier, she don't know what it's like to lose a child because she never liked that. I'll be lying to a person if I tell them it'll be all right, because I never lost a child or something. They got like groups meet up and places like that, and they talk about it. Some people going, trust me, if you're going through something, it's somebody out there going through something worse than you are going through. And 2 minds are better than one, and you can see how they dealt with their stuff. It might not work for you, but it give you an idea of what to start doing. But you need to talk to someone, and you need to talk to someone who's been through what you went through, and it starts with prayer, positivity, and humor. Humor is always a good way to deal with a lot of stuff. Remember the good times. That's why I say the first impression is not really the best impression, but who you are, who you want to be. That's why I try to always be polite to people, for people could always remember he was the polite guy and stuff like that. You keep memories like that going, and you could always cherish the good memories. So you could always have some good memories a person remember you by, or some just key in on the positivity that went on through, like if you lost a loved one, or if you got your heart broke by somebody. Look at the positive energy if you went through a break or a breakup or something. That person, that's their loss. Look at it like that. You keep the good energy going, And that's basically all I gotta say. Pray, keep the positivity going, and that's the best way to deal with any grief that you got going on in your life. Cherish the moment.
I wanted to add too, like you said, a lot of times in our culture, Black folk, we think, sweep stuff under the rug. I'm strong. I'm a strong Black woman. I'm a strong man. I done been through this, and you got layers and layers and layers of stuff that's piled up throughout the years of your existence on this earth, and you ain't talked about it, and a lot of times it's not good. You need to be free from a lot of stuff, whether you got to go to counseling and talk about it, call your friends, call your grandma, somebody to vent to, because when you'll eventually explode, and then eventually explode on the wrong person, not intentionally, but because you carrying so much on the inside of you. You carrying these bags, this dead weight, you know what I'm saying? And you gonna leave them somewhere. So you gotta ask God to come in and to heal you, but you have to do the work first. You know what I'm saying? You gotta want to be free, and want to, because a lot of times, a lot of people like having that crutch. You know what I'm saying? Some people wanna live on and I don't want to be bound. You know what I'm saying?
I swear you just read my mind. I was like, some people love that trauma. They love holding on to that, because there are people out here that like to babysit people that hold on to that kind of stuff. And it's just like, you got to grow sometime, some way. Like, you're not going to have people to hold your hand all throughout your whole entire life. That's why people are enablers to people that hold on to trauma. Especially because I was talking to this guy. I'm not gonna say his name, but I was talking to this guy. But first, before I get into that story, I want to add, when you had said something about you have to pray or talk to people. One thing I feel like people need to learn is crying.
Yeah.
Crying is a form of healing, because you are letting go.
Yes.
You are holding on to. And I want to say men, because men are the prime example. Like, there are women out, because my mama is one of them. She don't cry. There are a lot of men out here that feel like crying shows weakness.
Yes.
But to me, crying is something that heals the body. It lets go. Like, when you use the bathroom, you are letting go of waste in your body. So when you cry, you are letting go of trauma. You are letting go of anger. You are letting go of anything that is hindering you from releasing.
Absolutely.
You can talk all day, but talking is one thing, but letting out, you don't got to cry in front of everybody. Just cry to yourself, cry. You can talk out loud to yourself. You ain't even got to talk to everybody, because everybody don't even have the mental capacity to hold on to your weight and their weight as well. Like, people don't have that kind of mental. It's draining sometimes to be some people to go through stuff, and then they gotta sit here and listen. Like, a lot of people don't have that strength. So people will call you crazy if you talk out loud. But you're not talking out loud. You're not talking to yourself, you're talking to God.
Yeah.
When you cry, you're not being weak. You are releasing. You are healing. And I was trying to tell the guy that I used to talk to that, like, he's like, oh, crying is weak. And I just told myself to never be like that, ever, like, never show that kind of side of me. It's just like, so you just gonna keep on complaining to me, or you gonna keep complaining to the people that you around, or you're gonna keep on dragging that negative energy towards everybody else, and keep on whining and pouting about what's not happening in your life, and oh, I lost XYZ. And it's just like, you have to release.
Absolutely.
And if you can't put your weight onto another person, because we have our own problems. You got to learn how to release some way, whether that's in your music, whether that's doing what we do, podcasting, blogging, painting. You're releasing in some kind of way, and people don't realize that. Like, when you put a lot of your trauma into your art, it shows how, like, the like what he said about my blogs. It shows the pain and the seriousness that you have in your craft when you put your trauma into something else. If you ain't gonna cry, put it in your artwork. If you're not gonna cry, put it in your music. That lets people know, like, look, I'm releasing, and I'm releasing it my way. And I want to add this before I finish. There's this line in a Young Thug song that, like, it keeps repeating in my head, that because we keep talking about grief. When he has said in his song, "When you lose your life, somebody else is born."
And on that note, we're going to pay a few bills and we'll be back after these messages.
Dear God, thank you for the gift of family and friends. Bless everyone, for they deserve all the goodness you have given to me. May the love that binds us only grow stronger as we fulfill the destiny you have laid out for us. Protect us against any and all problems we may encounter in the future. Give us strength to overcome all of the difficulties that we are dealing with now. Heavenly Father, bless us, Lord. In your name I pray. Amen.
Hey you, do you feel your back is up against the wall with nowhere to go or turn? Mental illness is real. And if you or someone you know is battling with this demon, try Jesus. This commercial is sponsored by the Lord.
All right, everybody. Welcome back to This is Chicago Vibe. We're here with me, your host, Mr. Success, Lady T, and our special guest, Kyrie. And we're talking about grief. And before we went to break, Kyrie hit on a good point about, like, a lot of people deal with grief by putting it in their music, movies, books, and stuff like that. And I know I used to do that too when I was young, especially when I was a teenager and early 20s and stuff like that. But my mother, and not just my mother, prophet, a preacher, he told me one day, because my mother found like a bunch of my raps. But my mother never been a square. She always was in the music, because actually that's where I get my talent from. My mother, I think it's my father, but a lot of from him too, but my mother. But anyway, long story short, she caught some of my raps, and you think some of this trap music out here is bad influence right now. The stuff I was saying, she said it's good music, but that ain't what the Lord don't want you to put that message and stuff out there. You can deal with your grief the other way. In time, you will learn that. And so it is, like, if you watched any of my previous shows, I tell anybody that what I'm doing now, I've been in and out, in and out. I stop, because I wasn't really walking the right path. I was dealing with my grief with my pen in different ways, but I wasn't doing it the right way. You know, I want to put a positive message out there, because it worked for me, it ain't gonna work for the next person, you know, to survive. So that's all. That was a good point you hit on, Kyrie, about a lot of people deal with it by writing, but make sure you write and let it out the right way. And that's why I say positivity is a key. So you stay positive things gonna happen around you. Even just a slight bit of negative, the enemy could take over and ruin us, because his job works 24/7, and that's what I got to say about that. How to deal with a lot of grief.
Because also it's a scripture that says death and life is in the power of your tongue. And I ministered a message years ago. A spoken word creates an atmosphere. People don't understand how, back in the day, that it's the little song we used to sing, sticks and stones may break my bones, words that never hurt me, they lie. Words hurt more than sticks and stones, because you are creating the atmosphere in your world. So if you speak life, life will manifest. If you speak death, death will manifest. And so, like Sammy said, Mr. Success said that, he wanted to put positivity out there, because I was also the type of, person. I was, in media, and I was doing a secular thing. And it's like, I do, but I don't, but God put me there, you know what I mean? But I have to have a light, you know what I'm saying? I have to be the light. I got to be a light in a dark place, for his people and for other people, because sometimes we the only Bible that people ever may read, And so I've learned that I'm not ever perfect, you know what I mean? But if I represent him, I got to represent him all the way, because I'm not going to live in hell and then die and then go to hell. I'm just not gonna do that. You know what I mean? So we got to make a conscious decision on, you know, and I know we're talking about grief, but this is a form of grief too. We just got to make a decision, you know. And I made a decision like, I already got to leave here. I might as well go all the way with him instead of, you know, being lukewarm and leaving here and dying, going to hell, you know. So I just want y'all to be encouraged, those our listeners. I thank everybody who has supported It's a Chicago Vibe. We got a lot of good feedback about the mental illness. And, you know, if it's any topics that y'all want us to talk about, email us, you know, call in, inbox us on social media and let us know. You know, we have some amazing people that's actually gonna be coming up next week. And the week after that, we will be bringing Chanel Ellis on our show and interviewing her and many other artists. So y'all stay tuned for that. And that's
just
all.
remember this: the enemy works hard, and he likes to tamper with the Bible. He likes to play with words and stuff up in it. You know, the title of this show is about grief. The way each one of us deal with grief, that's what God led us to and put up in us to lead us to grief and get us closer to him. So you believe and you take stuff the way you do for your comfort zone. As long as you keep that positive energy around you, God will soon show us all the way.
Always and forever.
Amen.
Yeah. So before we get out of here, Lady T, you know the usual. Leave the people with some words of encouragement.
The words of affirmation today is to definitely love yourself, to put God first, to love not just yourself, but to love everybody, and allow God to free you, allow him to heal you from whatever grief or whatever pain, whatever you holding on to. Lay the dead weight at his feet. And this is your girl, Lady T Marie, signing out with It's a Chicago Vibe.
Oh yeah. And thanks for being on our show, Kyrie.
You're welcome.
Don't be looking out. Remember, good writer, and hey, we all three gonna sit down. We gonna write and we gonna debate about this here some more. But you know my motto,
Mr. Success.
You always have a ball. If I can't tell the truth, there's nothing at all. Mr. Success, make it pressure, no stress. Until next week, y'all. Peace.
Peace out.
C-H-I-C-A-G-O, C-H-I-C-A, let's go, C-H-I-C-A-G-O, C-H-I-C-A, let's go, C-H-I-C-A-G-O, C-H-I-C-A, let's go, C-H-I-C-A.